Hello everyone! This is part 2 of my sketchbook tour. Welcome. If you'd like to see part 1, I will include a link in the description box. But first I'm going to start with this drawing of corn. It was the first drawing I did after the end of the last part, and I probably spent more time on this piece than maybe any of the others. I just kept returning to it and trying different colors, and actually I can show you from the previous page. I spent a very long time trying to figure out the proportions of the stalk to the corn, and at first it was a real challenge. Usually with my eraser I can just erase when I don't like things. As you can see up here, I shortened part of the leaf, but the challenge of the different proportions was just too much, and so figured start on a fresh page. And I added a lot of layers, and I'm pretty happy with the way the colors and everything came out. It was from actually a bundle of corn, I'm not actually sure what to call it, that I saw on the street and I thought was really beautiful. The next is a color study I did of a landscape. And the focus wasn't really any of the details. It was more the shapes and blocks of color and trying to see how dark I could get some of the wax from the Prismacolor pencils, because the strange thing about this paper is it's very thick, and if you just do a single layer or a light layer of wax, it just starts over time to disappear. It's as if the paper digests the wax or absorbs it, and you end up seeing more texture than you even expected. So this was more just seeing what the wax can do, seeing what the pencils can do, looking at different color shapes. This one was more for a practical reason. I wanted to do a watercolor of this, and I have not done it yet. But the main focus here was studying where the lights and the darks would be, the general shapes based on a picture I took of a landscape. And so we'll see if I ever do that watercolor. I would like to. I feel like I have to practice a lot more before I do it though. This was based on a picture I took of a magnolia tree that these were just kind of hanging down in the street at about eye level, and I thought they were really beautiful. So I focused specifically on these individual blossoms and really worked on the shading. And I liked the way it turned out. The background was less important to me. This was my first time trying to draw my dog I had as a child, Nina. She was a Bichon Frise and very white and fluffy. I'm not quite sure I got her eye shape entirely correct. White pencil I found is the most complicated to work with on this paper. I like it as an individual, as a what do I call it? I guess a beginning line, as a starting line that I work over, but you have to start going from white to dark, because if you put white on top of dark, it just lightens the dark and doesn't give you the kind of bright highlights that you want. So you really have to plan out, if you're working with a white subject matter like this dog, where the brightest highlights will be, and try to preserve them in advance. So that was the first drawing I did of Nina. There will be a few others coming up. This here is a landscape, another study I was doing, possibly for a watercolor. I did try a watercolor version of it, but I would probably want to try again. The main focus here was trying different color blocks and shapes, and I kind of like it as a big mix of different colors. For this one, it's similar to the magnolia tree, where I had a picture of a bunch of very large green leaves that I thought were really interesting. They had a lot of very nice highlights and shading, and I wanted to try emphasizing that in the drawing. So I just picked out a couple that I thought were the most interesting and made more of an abstract background for the rest. Here I returned to flowers, which were really the first thing that brought me to drawing with colored pencils. This was a lily I saw this summer. It was pretty orangey yellow. The shading made this seem a lot darker, but that was kind of the focus, is I wanted to work on shadows and shading. I'm pretty pleased with how these buds came out and the general shape. I like this little twist here. This was a tree I saw a few years ago, and it really stood out to me. Just the shape, and the water behind it was very green, and I like the contrast of the red leaves to the green water. And so I wanted to show in the bark all the different colors and shapes, and that was the main focus of this drawing. Similarly here, this was a landscape I saw and thought was really special that I might also want to do a watercolor of. And so I wanted to focus on where it was darkest, where the coolest colors were, where the warmest colors would be. And I did use a blending pencil to try to make the shading darker. I had left it for a while, and over time more and more the paper was coming through, and it almost started to look like there wasn't a lot of wax on this at all, so I wanted to fix that. I like the contrast now, and I think once I've used the blending pencil, it stays more strongly. And this here is a bunch of asparagus that I had taken a picture of. It might have been the first time I ever purchased asparagus, and something about holding the bundle of asparagus, I thought it was so beautiful. Something about the triangles that were pink in contrast to the green stalks, and I must have taken at least 50 pictures on my digital camera of that bundle of asparagus, and so I thought I'd finally draw it, because that was a bunch of years ago. And same again, I wanted to focus on the individual ones that I thought were the most interesting. There were some in the background that I made more just shadow. And I like the way it came out. This is a landscape that is partly fictional and partly real. So it was based on the memory of a landscape I had seen that I thought was very beautiful, and I decided to make it a little more surreal. You know, it's a foliage, so there were some bright colors like red and orange and yellow when I saw it, but obviously they weren't quite as neon pink, and there wasn't the blue, but I like the feel of it. And I did also use the colorless blending pencil here too on the darkest parts. I didn't do it on the highlights, but I did it to emphasize shadow. And this was one of my first times trying to draw something that was not a picture, but was an object in front of me. It's my teapot that I have. It's blue and I really love it. I haven't used it in a while, but it's perfect for exactly 2 cups of tea. And it's a really sweet little teapot. So I sat for a while focusing on where the highlights were and reflections, and just sort of made a contrasting color background for it. It's not quite as realistic as I initially intended, but maybe it's more just the feel of the teapot and how I feel about the teapot. That same evening I decided to draw a vase that I have, and it's glass. It's actually more red than purple, but in the light it looked more purple, so I went with the darker purple and pink tones. This one I did not use any colorless blending pencil on it because I was afraid to lose some of the transparency. But yeah, I really focused on where the brightest highlights would be and where the darkest purple and black and shading would be, and tried to keep it pretty simple, but I did work on this one for a while. First time trying to draw something transparent. This is a really nostalgic picture. It's my picture of my old dog Nina, and at the holidays, either Christmas or Hanukkah, probably Christmas, and she always would know which gift was meant for her, because I guess she could probably smell the pet store through it. So she knew that that was her squeaky toy, and she would go for it and try to open it herself. She'd get very excited about it. Yeah, so this one makes me happy. I like to look at it and think about that. This was a tree I saw a few years ago and I thought was really striking. I took a picture of it at the time because of the way all the light was hitting it and the light was passing through it and the shadows. So that was my main focus in this one. I don't think I used any colorless blending pencil in this one. Some of the burnishing might have happened from just layering, because I kept layering to try to make the color very thick. So that was the main focus of this tree. These are some tulips I saw in the past year or so, and what really stood out to me is they had these little water drops on them because it had been raining. And so in the actual photo I took, there were more tulips all around, but these were the two that I thought were the most interesting, so I focused on them. And one of the hardest things about this paper is getting very tiny, thin, precise details and lines, so that was what I was really focusing on here, was trying to get the precision of the lines and the water drops, with, you know, some of the textured background as well. And I'm pleased with this one. These here are two llamas that I met a few years ago, and they were quite charming, and I think llamas are really adorable. So I wanted to focus on their expressions because they have such expressive, somewhat strange faces. And so I really spent a lot of time trying to get the details of their faces with very few lines, because it is small, and again, the issue of precision with this paper. The background had started to get a little less dark, so I went back with colorless blending pencil and really brought out the black so that their faces could come forward. And so that's them, and they're smiling, kind of. This was a vase with plants in it. I don't really love snakes, but I did think it made the picture interesting, and there were a lot of bright flowers in it that I thought were really pretty. So this was just kind of fun, playing with color and shapes. This was another landscape that I thought was beautiful based on the way the light was hitting and the shadows were. I'm not really happy with how it came out exactly. I was trying to get some shadow marks that were there from other branches, and instead it just kind of looks messy. I tried using the colorless blending pencil to bring things out and make the contrast stronger. I'm not sure it really fixed it though. Maybe there's a little bit of depth, and that I can be happy about that. This was a rose that I saw and I thought was very, very beautiful. It was kind of orangey and pink, and so that was the focus of the petals and the shadows. On this paper though, there's not a very strong contrast between this kind of peach and the brown, so I tried to make a more interesting background behind it. This one might be my favorite of the drawings. It's again my dog Nina, and it was just a moment of her on a bed one year, and I thought, I took it as a picture, and so I've had it as a picture for a very long time, but I'd never really tried to draw her expression and really what made her so cute and special, and her thoughtfulness. At least I felt like she was very thoughtful. And so I focused here also on the fabric in front of her, trying to get some of the shadows and highlights. And I really, really focused on her eyes and trying to make them as realistic as I could. What's always strange about working with white is you also have to think about, you know, the shadows of it, and shadows can be all sorts of colors. So here I also included some reds and blues that match the backgrounds, and there's also some highlights to her fluffy bed that she had. So that was Nina. I feel like this captures her. Next was my first attempt at drawing something edible. It's actually a cookie that I made years ago, and I really was proud of that cookie. I made it with, I guess it's technically a Linzer tart, but I used regular sugar cookie dough, so it was very thick, and then there was raspberry jam inside of it. Also, a first on this page is using gel pen to make the highlights, because as I described with white on this paper, when you add white on top of it, it can add some of these kind of lighter pinks and violets, which I also wanted to include, but to get the precise details of like dots of highlights was almost impossible. Well, was impossible adding the white pencil afterwards, so I just added some white gel pen in different sections to really bring out the highlights. And I did use a colorless blending pencil on the shadow to really make it stand out, and to also blend the jam section. And also there too. Jam there. There. It was a really good cookie. I ate it really fast. This is based on a picture I took. One of my best friends and I, every year we had a tradition for maybe about 15 years of making gingerbread houses every year. And so this was one of my favorite sets of our gingerbread houses. This was hers and this was mine. And I wasn't sure if I'd be able to capture it in a drawing. That was sort of why I chose to do it as a challenge, because there is so many small little details of candy and colors. And again, I used the little gel pen for little dots and highlights to make the contrast, and I think it's fun. Oh, this was another challenge to myself, was I've never really drawn a parrot before. This is maybe the second bird I've ever tried to draw, and this was a parrot that was in a hotel lobby. When my husband and I went on our honeymoon, this bird was in the lobby, and it would speak to the different guests as they came in, and I think it would also imitate the sound of the ringing telephone, which was sort of bizarre and charming. And so I took the picture a long time ago, and looking at it, I just thought, oh, he has so much personality, I want to draw him. And so that's why I decided to draw this bird, and I think it really captures his persona. This is based on a picture I took of a teddy bear I had as a child. It was really soft, and it might have been by a Gund teddy bear. I removed the label from the drawing because I didn't think that was that interesting. I was more interested in the teddy bear's face and kind of softness and shapes and shadow and highlight. So that was the main focus. I just sort of added red as the background to give some contrast and have it stand out a bit more. So yeah, that was the teddy bear. I'm actually not sure if it ever had a name. It's probably going to bother me that I can't remember if that bear had a name. This is based on a picture I took of the beach. And this was a bit of a challenge for me because it has precise details, but it also has a lot of movement. I did not use the colorless blending pencil on this drawing at all because I wanted some of the texture. I wanted the texture in the clouds. So this is an example of when you put white on this over time, if you just do a thin layer of white, more and more of the paper will come out, which is what an effect I actually wanted to have for this drawing, so it would look more like fluffy clouds. And I got some of the white on the foam and bits of the green in the water. Trying to match the shades of blue and green in the water was maybe one of the most difficult parts for me, but I think it came out well. And I tried to include some of the green and blue in the dunes, even if it wasn't entirely realistic, because I wanted to make it coherent for the picture. This next picture is a white flower I took a picture of. It's not my favorite of my drawings. I tried to make it a little more exciting by the contrast of the background to the front, and I used I really went with the colorless blending pencil for that. It was very hard since it is a white flower to get all the detail I wanted, but actually it is a very smooth type of flower. The harder part maybe was actually getting the individual little, I don't know if they're stamen, little bits of yellow individually that were supposed to kind of stand out more, though I found that really very tricky. Which I think brings me to the last picture in the sketchbook. Once again, I decided to challenge myself with something I didn't think I could draw, and ultimately it's not my best drawing, but it was my first time trying to draw a small horse that I had seen at a Renaissance fair a long time ago. I had thought it was really cute, and I actually wanted to ride it, but as an adult I was not allowed to ride it. It was probably the only horse I would have felt safe ever trying to ride. It looked really sweet. It was eating some kind of hay, and it had like a yellowy, kind of medieval themed, maybe Renaissance themed blanket thing. And this, and I really don't know any of the technical details of what to call parts of a horse, but I tried my best with its anatomy. I'd probably have to spend a lot more time to get it completely accurate, but I did want to focus on highlights and shadows and the green of the grass around it and the hay. So that is the last of this sketchbook, but I guess maybe just as a quick roundup to say which ones were my favorites. Might be, first of all, the corn, because I spent so long on it. And this is actually in my Society 6 shop as pillows, mugs, whatever, with a dark background that makes it pop. And so there's that one. Maybe the other favorite might be this one of Nina at the holidays, opening her presents. And then maybe I will close with Nina just kind of looking at the camera. So I hope you are all very well. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know which ones were your favorites, and I hope you have a good day. Bye.